At the start of the drama, we see a party scene where many people have gathered. A CEO, Mr. Chang, also arrives with his wife. Now we see the male lead Shinchi. His assistant tells him about a girl, saying, Min Hoi, the director of the company, is also coming. Hearing Min Hoi's name, Shinchi freezes for a moment. Next, we see the female lead, Min Hoi, who enters the party. She approaches Mr. Chang and says, "Oh, you're here too, let's have a drink together." Shinchi also notices Min Hoi. However, Mr. Chang doesn't let Min Hoi leave and asks, "Why are you in such a hurry?" She responds, "What can I do for you?" To which he replies, "5 years ago, you embarrassed me. Now, apologize to me." Min Hoi behaves nicely with him for some reason and sits on his lap, surprising everyone. Then, Mr. Chang's wife intentionally spills a drink on Min Hoi. Min Hoi apologizes, but Mr. Chang's wife starts scolding her and even pours the rest of her drink on Min Hoi. At this point, Shinchi steps in and saves her. A flashback is shown, revealing that Shinchi and Min Hoi were once in a relationship. Mr. Chang sarcastically comments, "So, you're the new CEO of the company." Shinchi confirms this and then takes Min Hoi outside. Once there, he lets go of her hand and begins wiping a mark off her forehead. She asks, "Are you really Shinchi?" He replies, "Yes." She asks again, "Are you completely okay now?" He says, "Yes, I recovered 5 years ago, but I can never forget what you did to me." He adds, "Even today you're willing to do anything for money. You did the same to me." Min Hoi responds, "It's been 5 years. We should forget the past." Shinchi leaves. Min Hoi calls Mr. Chang and says, "I've done your work. Now you must fulfill your promise." In the next scene, Min Hoi visits her son Quan, who is hospitalized. Quan pretends to be asleep, but Min Hoi realizes he isn't. After putting Min Quan to sleep, Min Hoi steps outside for some fresh air and meets Dr. Zhou and tells him, "I have convinced Mr. Chang Dad to perform Quan's surgery." At this point, it becomes clear that Min Hoi did everything at the party for her son. In the next scene, Shinchi visits the hospital for a checkup. When he goes to the toilet, he finds Quan, and their actions are also similar. Meanwhile, Min Hoi is also looking for Quan but hides upon seeing Shinchi. Nurses bring in a patient on a stretcher, and as Shinchi is busy on his phone, the stretcher nearly hits him. Min Hoi quickly pulls him aside into a corner. Shinchi remarks sarcastically, "You're not such a kind person, so why pretend to care?" Min Hoi asks, "What are you doing here? Is your illness not cured yet?" He responds, "You're very good at pretending to care about me. If I had known you'd be here, I'd never have come." He then leaves. In the next scene, Shinchi's assistant informs him, "Our new project belongs to Min Hoi's company." Shinchi immediately orders its cancellation. Later, Min Hoi and her friend Cao Mu find out about the project cancellation. Cao Mu advises Min Hoi to investigate who canceled it. Min Hoi visits the company and learns that Shinchi is the CEO. When she tries to shake hands with him, he pulls his hand back and says, "Couldn't trap Chang, so you came here?" Min Hoi explains her project, but Shinchi ignores her and walks away. The next day, Min Hoi again goes to meet Shinchi, but she isn't allowed to see him. That same day, Shinchi goes on a date arranged by President. However, he gets bored with the girl's conversation. Just then, Min Hoi arrives and pretends to be his girlfriend. She whispers in his ear, "I can help you," to which Shinchi agrees. The girl asks, "Who is she?" Shinchi responds, "She's my girlfriend." The girl then asks, "If she's your girlfriend, why did you come on a blind date with me?" Shinchi replies, "If you were better than Min Hoi, I would have made you my girlfriend, but that didn't happen." The girl gets angry and leaves. Min Hoi then says, "I helped you. I trust you won't go back on your word." Shinchi replies, "I'm not free today. Come some other day," and leaves. In the next scene, Min Hoi is telling Quan, "Your surgery is in 2 days, so don't be scared." Quan replies, "Daddy Joe says I'm grown up now, but for now, I want a gift." Min Hoi asks, "What gift?" He says, "I just want a daddy like you have." Min Hoi responds, "Don't you like me? What you said hurt me." She then puts Quan to sleep. In the next scene, Shinchi is at the hospital waiting for his reports when Quan arrives and asks, "Are you married? Do you have a girlfriend?" Shinchi denies both. Quan then asks, "Will you be my daddy?" Shinchi explains, "You can't call just anyone your daddy." Quan says, "My mom told me my dad was very handsome. Can you be my dad?" Shinchi asks, "Where is your mom? I'll take you to her." At that moment, Dr. Zhou arrives and takes Quan away. As Shinchi is leaving, he hears Quan calling Min Hoi mom, which hurts him, and he walks. Quan later tells his mom, "I asked Mr. Beautiful to be my daddy." Min Hoi explains to him, "You shouldn't call anyone your daddy." Then, Dr. Zhou informs Min Hoi, "Quan's surgery is tomorrow." In the next scene, Min Hoi goes to Shinchi's office, but he makes her wait. She receives a call from the hospital and leaves without meeting him. She goes to the hospital and bids farewell to Quan before his surgery. Dr. Zhou consoles her, saying, "The surgery will go well. I've also called Cao Mu." In the next scene, Dr. Zhou informs Min Hoi that Quan's surgery was successful. Later, Cao Mu tells Min Hoi, "Do you remember when we first met?" A flashback shows Min Hoi pregnant. Remembering this, Min Hoi tells Cao Mu, "You've always been polite to me and never asked about my personal life. In the next scene, Min-hoi is in Shin-chi's office, but he doesn't meet her. She hacks into his computer. When Shin-chi comes out, he tells his assistant to call an expert. Min-hoi admits, "I hacked your computer. Give me 20 minutes and I'll fix everything." Shin-chi responds, "Yesterday I gave you 10 minutes but you didn't come." She explains, "You wasted 30 minutes of my time yesterday." He retorts, "What about the 3 months you wasted of mine 5 years ago?" and walks away. In the next scene, Shin-chi is stuck in traffic. Min-hoi arrives and says, "Promise to give me 10 minutes and I'll take you where you need to go." Shin-chi gets on Min-hoi's bike. In the following scene, Shin-chi visits the hospital to say goodbye to a patient who is moving abroad. He then gives Min-hoi 10 minutes. She explains her project saying, "It would benefit many people. Give me one chance." Shin-chi agrees, but tells her, "You'll have to compete with Chang's company." In the next scene, Shin-chi is in a meeting. Someone suggests, "You should get a checkup with doctor," but he refuses. Later, he sees Min-hoi with Dr. Joe, which makes him jealous. He calls and agrees to the checkup. Dr. Joe was conducting Shin-chi's checkup, but Shin-chi told him, "You don't seem like a capable doctor," and was about to leave when Min-hoi arrived with Kwan. Kwan calls Shin-chi Mr. Beautiful. A flashback shows a girl named Su Nian had an accident. She was Shin-chi's girlfriend, who asked Min-hoi to meet Shin-chi pretending to be Su Nian and pass on a notebook to him. Then Min-hoi meet him pretending to be Su Nian. Back in the present, hearing Kwan call him Daddy, Shin-chi scolds him saying, "Didn't I tell you not to call me Daddy?" He also tells Dr. Joe, "If you can't even be a proper doctor, at least you should have taught your child better." Kwan retorts, "Why are you bullying Daddy Joe? I don't like you at all now." Shin-chi, annoyed, leaves. Min-hoi follows him and apologizes for Kwan's words. She asks, "Do you hate me? Then why do you take out your anger on those associated with me?" Shin-chi, still under the impression that Dr. Joe is Min-hoi's husband, he says some harsh things and walks away. Next, while on his way to a meeting, Shin-chi's blood sugar drops, and he asks his assistant to stop at a shop. Min-hoi is also at the same shop with Kwan, who wanted ice cream. However, due to his surgery, the doctor had strictly forbidden it, so she doesn't allow him to have any. When Min-hoi steps aside to take a phone call, after she leaves, Shin-chi arrives, and Kwan points his toy gun at him, asking, "Why did you bully my Daddy Joe?" Shin-chi replies, "You're here too? You're Min-hoi's son, which is why you never leave me alone." Kwan retorts, "Don't say bad things about my mom," and shoots him with the toy gun. Shin-chi, angry, picks up the toy gun and pretends to shoot Kwan back. After a while, he gives in and tells Kwan, "Fine, I surrender." Kwan says, "I'm Superman," and opens his shirt, showing surgical instruments attached to his chest. Seeing this, Shin-chi asks, "You've had surgery? Your dad must be a good doctor." Kwan responds, "Doctor, Joe isn't my dad." Shin-chi, now curious, asks about his birthday, but before Kwan can answer, Min-hoi arrives and takes Kwan away. Shin-chi stops her and asks about Kwan's age. At that moment, Dr. Joe appears. Min-hoi lies about Kwan's age and tells Shin-chi, "You have nothing to do with my son." In the next scene, Min-hoi learns that her project has been rejected, and Chang's company's project has been approved. She confronts Shin-chi, who tells her, "The result came through voting. It's not my fault." Later, Shin-chi finds out that Chang's company cheated. He asks his assistant to recheck the voting results. Min-hoi is secretly observing someone when Shin-chi suddenly appears behind her. Min-hoi twists Shin-chi's arm and pins him against the wall. He asks, "What are you doing here?" She replies, "Why do you care?" She then notices her shirt is torn and starts fixing it. Shin-chi removes his coat and drapes it over her shoulders. In the next scene, Min-hoi is following the hospital director because she suspects he is working with Chang's company. She hides and overhears his conversation. Suddenly, the director opens the door, and Min-hoi nearly falls, but Shin-chi catches her and takes her to another room. By mistake, Min-hoi ends up kissing Shin-chi's shirt. She asks, "What are you doing here?" But Shin-chi doesn't respond. Min-hoi says, "So you're suspicious of the director too?" The shopkeeper then returns with the torn shirt. Shin-chi says, "Min-hoi caused this, so she'll pay for it." Min-hoi has to pay for the shirt. In the next scene, Sao-mu hosts a party and invites Shin-chi. She plans to get him drunk to take revenge, but Min-hoi drinks in his place to protect. While drunk, Min-hoi tells Shin-chi, "You shouldn't drink much because of your heart problem." Shin-chi replies, "Even if you drink, I won't forgive you for the past." Min-hoi responds, "5 years ago when you were admitted to the hospital, I was the one who helped you." Shin-chi says, "When I regained consciousness, you weren't there." Min-hoi explains, "You said you didn't want to see me." At that moment, Kao-mu arrives, and Shin-chi asks her to take Min-hoi home. In the next scene, Kao-mu tells Min-hoi about an important meeting and advises her to attend. Min-hoi refuses, saying, "You go instead, because Shin-chi will also be there." During the meeting, Shin-chi asks her several questions, which Kao-mu cannot answer. She excuses herself by pretending to go to the restroom and calls Min-hoi to take over. Min-hoi arrives at the meeting but gets a call from the hospital. She informs Shin-chi, "I need to leave for the hospital immediately." A flashback shows Shin-chi calling Min-hoi sodium, to which she replies, "I am not sodium, I am Min-hoi." Back in the present, Shin-chi lets her leave for the hospital. At the hospital, Dr. Joe tells Kwon to wear a device, but Kwon refuses. When Min-hoi arrives, he agrees to wear it. Later, Shin-chi goes to the hospital, where he finds Kwon sitting outside. He approaches Kwon, who asks, "Why did you bully my mom?" Shin-chi apologizes and Kwon forgives him. Shin-chi asks, "Why are you sitting here?" Kwon explains, "Doctor, Joe made me wear a heart device, so no kids play with me anymore." Determined to help Kwon, Shin-chi comes up with an idea. Meanwhile, Min-hoi is looking for Kwon in the hospital. Shin-chi gives Kwon an Iron Man cover, making him look very cool. Shin-chi asks him, "It must be hard spending all day in the hospital." Kwon replies, "Not for me, but it's hard for my mom." Shin-chi then asks Kwon, "Has your mom had any boyfriends in the past few years?" Kwon replies, "No, that's why I asked you to be my daddy." Shin-chi takes Kwon to Min-hoi. Kwon excitedly tell her, "Mr. Beautiful made me an Iron Man cover." Shin-chi then leaves. The next day, because of the Iron Man cover, Kwon becomes very popular in his class. Min-hoi visits Shin-chi's office to thank him, saying, "That Iron Man cover helped Kwon a lot, so I came to thank you." She gives him coffee. Shin-chi asks, "Do you have anything else to say?" She replies, "No," and starts to leave, but Shin-chi stops her and says, "I need to talk to you." Shin-chi apologizes to Min-hoi for what happened 5 years ago and says, "We should forgive each other for what happened 5 years ago." She says, "I'm happy that you don't hate me anymore. Now we should go our separate ways. I have also sent the repost for the project, so check it out." In the next scene, Shin-chi had ordered an Iron Man toy for Kwon. Then he goes to give the toy to Kwon. Kwon becomes very happy after seeing the toy and starts showing it off to all his friends. Now Shin-chi discovers that Kwon is his son because he saw his age on the hospital papers. He talks to Min-hoi, but she says, "You hated me, which is why I raised Kwon alone," and then leaves. In the next scene, Min-hoi goes home. When she opens the door, she sees Shin-chi there. She asks him, "What are you doing here?" He replies, "From now on, I will also live here." She tells him to leave, but he says, "Send Kwon with me, and I will leave." Min-hoi asks Kwon, "Should Shin-chi stay here?" Kwon agrees, so Min-hoi shows him a very small room to stay in. That night, Shin-chi is unable to sleep and gets up to go to the hall. Min-hoi checks his room and thinking he has left, but he suddenly appears in front of her and scares her. Next morning, Shin-chi doesn't like Min-hoi's coffee maker and complains about it. She tells him, "If you have so many problems, why don't you go back to your own house?" Just then, the doorbell rings, and Dr. Joe is at. Min-hoi asks Shin-chi to hide, and then lets Dr. Joe in. Dr. Joe had brought breakfast for her, which makes Shin-chi jealous. Because of Shin-chi's behavior, Min-hoi asks Dr. Joe to leave. After he leaves, Shin-chi asks Min-hoi, "What's your relationship with Dr. Joe?" But she refuses to tell him. Kwon comes in and starts eating the breakfast Dr. Joe brought, but Shin-chi stops him and says, "You will not eat this breakfast." Min-hoi then sets some conditions for Shin-chi to stay, saying, "We won't tell anyone that you are staying here." Next day, Min-hoi is making breakfast but gets a call, causing the eggs to burn. Shin-chi says, "Do you feed this burnt food to my son every day?" Min-hoi replies, "If you want good food, you won't find it here." Shin-chi reluctantly eats the burnt food. In the next scene, Min-hoi is running late for the office and asks Kwon, "Put the laptop in my bag." Shin-chi offers to drop Kwon at school since she's late, but she refuses and takes Kwon on her bike. Shin-chi protests, saying, "You're taking my son to school on that bike? It's dangerous." After much argument, they leave in Shin-chi's car. In the meeting, Min-hoi and Shin-chi realize they accidentally brought each other's laptops. They manage to start the meeting without them, but Shin-chi keeps looking at Min-hoi throughout the meeting. After the meeting, Min-hoi goes to Shin-chi's office to exchange laptops. Shin-chi scolds her, saying, "Do you even realize how many important documents are in my laptop? Don't make this mistake again." She replies, "Then you should leave my home," and they argue again. Then she leaves with her laptop. In the next scene, Shin-chi brings some new items to Min-hoi's house, which leads to another argument between them. Kwon sees them and asks, "Are you two fighting?" They reply, "No, we are just talking loud." Kwon says, "My friend's parents hold hands when they talk." They awkwardly hold hands. Then Kwon adds, "They also hug while talking." Shin-chi hugs Min-hoi, but after Kwon leaves, they separate. In the next scene, Shin-chi and Kwon are at the mall shopping, and they buy a lot of stuff. Seeing all this shopping, Min-hoi calls Shin-chi aside to talk privately and tells him, "You are spoiling my child by using your power." He responds, "I just want to make him happy." At that moment, Kwon arrives and says, "It hurts me to see you both fighting. I want the three of us to live happily together." In the next scene, Shin-chi is playing with Kwon. Min-hoi tells him, "Don't you have any work to do for your company?" He replies, "Maybe you don't know that a CEO can manage their time." She says, "Your staying here is causing problems for all of us. Why don't you leave?" Shin-chi asks Kwon, "Do you not want me to stay here?" Kwon tells his mom, "Don't try to make him leave." In the next scene, late at night, Min-hoi checks on Shin-chi and sees him talking to a client. His laptop freezes, and seeing Min-hoi, he asks her for help. She says, "You talk on the phone, and I'll fix it." In a while, she fixes the laptop and asks Shin-chi for her repair fees. Then she asks, If you won't pay, at least tell me why you're staying here. Shin-chi replies, I'm here for Kwon. Do you think I'm here for you? Min-hoi says, absolutely not, but no matter what you do, I won't give Kwon to you. He replies, I'm not planning to take him away anyway. In the next scene, Min-hoi is at a party where a boy is misbehaving with his girlfriend. Min-hoi intervenes, but the boy insults her and asks, can you even tell who your child's father is? Just then, Shin-chi arrives and slaps the boy. The boy, recognizing Shin-chi as a CEO, doesn't say anything further. Shin-chi starts leaving, and Min-hoi follows him outside. Outside the hotel, Shin-chi angrily says, how could you let anyone question my son? Why doesn't anyone know who his father is? Min-hoi apologizes. At that moment, Cao-mu arrives, and Min-hoi quickly hides Shin-chi behind a tree. After Cao-mu leaves, Min-hoi tells Shin-chi, I didn't intentionally drag you into this, and leaves. Later, Min-hoi calls for a cab to drop Kwon at school, but Shin-chi arrives in his car. Min-hoi refuses to get in. Shin-chi asks Kwon, and he agrees to go with him. Despite this, Min-hoi still refuses, so Shin-chi takes Kwon and leaves Min-hoi standing there. While waiting for a cab, Shin-chi comes back and makes Min-hoi sit in his car. As the car takes a sudden turn, Min-hoi falls toward Shin-chi. A man takes their photos and posts them on. In the photos, Min-hoi is clearly visible, but Shin-chi's face is not. Next day, when Min-hoi goes to the office, everyone is talking about her. Cao-mu calls her to her office and shows her the viral photos. Meanwhile, Shin-chi overhears some people gossiping about Min-hoi and feels upset. He goes to talk to her. On the other side, Min-hoi finds out that Mr. Den was the one who uploaded the photos. Shin-chi arrives and asks to speak to Min-hoi alone, so Cao-mu leaves. Shin-chi says, I don't care who you are in a relationship with, but you should think about Kwon. Because of you, what all will he have to hear? Min-hoi shows him the photos and tells him Mr. Den is behind this. Shin-chi asks, what are you planning to do now? Min-hoi replies, don't worry, I will handle everything. Min-hoi shows all the evidence to the senior director, who then calls Mr. Den to the office. Mr. Den initially refuses to admit his wrongdoing, but when Min-hoi presents all the proof, he finally confesses. When Min-hoi gets home, Shin-chi asks her, you seem to be in a good mood today. She replies, Mr. Den apologized to me. Shin-chi responds, you're forgetting something. Min-hoi thinks and says, no, I don't think so. Shin-chi then tells her, I was the one who told Mr. Den to apologize to you. Min-hoi gets angry and says, we agreed to keep our relationship a secret, but you told everything to Mr. Den. Shin-chi responds, I just told him the truth. She retorts, how will I face him now? Shin-chi says, I told him that I was once interested in you, but you were too boring, so I left you. This makes Min-hoi even angrier. In the next scene, Shin-chi is sitting with Kwon when Min-hoi tries to take Kwon away for bedtime. Kwon asks, tell me a story. While listening to the story, Kwon falls asleep, and the two also doze off beside him. In the morning, Min-hoi wakes up to find herself lying on Shin-chi. She pretends to sleep, but Shin-chi wakes up and moves her head from his arm. Kwon also wakes up and seeing them, tells Min-hoi, Mom, you were sleeping with Shin-chi. As the doorbell rings, Shin-chi goes to check. Meanwhile, Kwon asks Min-hoi, will you sleep with Shin-chi now? She scolds him, saying, children shouldn't talk like that. Outside, Dr. Joe arrives and sees Shin-chi. Min-hoi takes Dr. Joe inside where he comments, if you don't want to share your personal life, that's fine. She ends up telling him everything. In the next scene, Min-hoi returns home and Shin-chi asks her, what were you doing there? What's your relationship with Joe? She replies, he's my neighbor and Kwon's doctor. Next scene, doctor. Joe is at Min-hoi's house and they all start eating. Shin-chi arrives and says, where my son is, I will also be. When Kwon calls Dr. Joe Dad, Shin-chi corrects him saying, your dad is here, so call me Dad. Dr. Joe says, Kwon, you can call me whatever you want. So Kwon calls both of them Dad, leaving the two men glaring at each other. After Dr. Joe leaves, Shin-chi tells Min-hoi, you let anyone into the house. She replies, I've already told you that he's Kwon's doctor and my friend. The stranger here is you, sitting in my house. Hearing this, Shin-chi falls silent. Then Kwon comes over and asks him, will you sleep with me again tonight? Shin-chi replies, I'm going to sleep in my room tonight. I won't sleep with you. After Shin-chi leaves, he asks Min-hoi, why won't you sleep with me tonight? You slept with me yesterday. Min-hoi say, we never slept together. Think of it as your imagination, and then makes him lie down to sleep. In the next scene, Min-hoi's boss tells her to stop the project, saying, this won't bring quick profits. The boss gives her an option, find an investor and continue with the project. Min-hoi agrees and angrily storms off. Later, Min-hoi sends Shin-chi a message, will you come over for dinner tonight? Shin-chi wonders what's going on with her. When he arrives, she serves him food. Looking at it, he asks, did you mix poison in this? She replies, no, if you don't believe me, I'll taste it first, and eats a bite. Shin-chi eats too, but doesn't like it. Shin-chi then says, now tell me, what favor do you want from me? Min-hoi tells him, I need your investment for my project. Shin-chi responds, I already invested with Chang. I can't invest in two places. Min-hoi gets angry and says, what if I finish it in 2 years? Shin-chi replies, that's not possible. She insists, I can do it. Give me 2 weeks to prove it. He neither agrees nor refuses. In the next scene, Shin-chi and Kwon are playing outside when the doorbell rings. Dr. Joe arrives and tells Kwon, you shouldn't play like this. It will increase your heartbeat. He checks Kwon's heartbeat. Shin-chi extends his hand and says, check mine too. Just then, the delivery boy arrives with the pizza Shin-chi ordered. However, Joe tells Shin-chi Kwon doesn't like pizza. Joe then makes noodles for Kwon, who happily eats them. After eating, when Joe is about to leave, Shin-chi asks him, "Do you like Min-hoi?" Joe doesn't answer, so Shin-chi says, "I'll take your silence as a yes." Joe then asks Shin-chi, "Did you come here because of Kwon or because of Min-hoi?" Shin-chi also remains silent. Joe concludes, "I'll take that as you being here for Min-hoi, not Kwon." Later that night, when Min-hoi comes home, Shin-chi asks her, "Why did you send Dr. Joe here? Didn't you know I was here?" Then Min-hoi, feeling sleepy but still working, Shin-chi says, "Why are you doing so much work? Go and sleep." Min-hoi starts showing him her project, saying, "I prepared this by working overtime. If there's a mistake, point it out." Shin-chi pulls out her iPad, and Min-hoi tries to grab it from him, saying, "Show me where my mistake is." But Shin-chi refuses and says, "Praise me first." She says, "You're handsome," but he's not satisfied. Min-hoi then moves closer, grabs the iPad, and they sit together working on it. As they work, they grow closer to each other. After this, we see Min-hoi's countdown begin. She's speeding up work to complete it in the 14 days she had asked for. On the last day, Kwon calls her and asks, "Mama, did you eat?" Shin-chi is sitting next to her but isn't visible on the video call. To appear in the call, he starts walking behind Kwon, and Min-hoi begins talking to him as well. She then says, "I have work. I might be late, so don't wait for me." Later, she goes out for drink with Xiaomu. Min-hoi drinks too much, causing stomach pain. Kao-mu cannot handle her alone, so she calls Dr. Joe for help. When Dr. Joe brings Min-hoi into the building, Shin-chi sees them. He slaps Dr. Joe's hand away and pulls Min-hoi closer, saying, "I live at her house, so I can take care of her." Shin-chi takes Min-hoi home, lays her on the bed, and notices her hand on her stomach. Understanding that her stomach hurts, he brings her medicine and lemon water. Min-hoi, still half asleep, pulls Shin-chi close and stares at him. Remembering a past moment when she kissed him, she suddenly kisses him again. Shin-chi is shocked by the kiss, but she lies back down. The incident keeps replaying in Shin-chi's mind, even while he's taking a shower. The next morning, Min-hoi wakes up with stomach pain. She steps out to find Shin-chi working outside. Remembering the scene from the previous night, she thinks, "That must have been a dream. It can't be real." She quickly goes to check on Kwon, but finds out he's already been dropped off at kindergarten. Relieved, she says, "When you drink, you act this way." She asks Shin-chi, "What did I do last night?" Shin-chi says, "Nothing." Min-hoi insists, "Can you tell me about the deal I made with you last night?" Hearing this, Shin-chi spits out his coffee, spilling it onto the laptop. Min-hoi remarks, "Your laptop must be expensive." But then she realizes it's her own laptop and quickly starts cleaning it. Shin-chi then says, "I'm agreeing to invest in your project. I'm giving you 6 extra months to complete it properly." In the next scene, Kwon makes a video call to Shin-chi, asking, "Mom and I are outside. Where are you?" Kwon wants to take rides, but Min-hoi refuses. Then, the balloons in Kwon's hand fly away and get stuck in a tree. Kwon asks his mom to retrieve the balloons. Min-hoi jumps to catch the balloons, but Shin-chi arrives and brings them down. Kwon is very happy to see Shin-chi. The three enjoy themselves a lot and take all kinds of rides. At the end, when Kwon is sitting with many toys, he suddenly goes to see something else. Then she says, "You've done so much for Kwon. I'll give you a gift too." Then she goes to get cotton candy. They enjoy it and start leaving when Zhao sees them together and doesn't like how happy Min-hoi is with Shin-chi. Zhao calls out to Min-hoi and gives her a gift. Kwon, who was with Shin-chi. He tells Kwon to call his mom. Kwon calls Min-hoi and she quickly comes to them. At home, Min-hoi is looking at the shoes Zhao gave her. Kwon also asks, "Did Mr. Joe give these?" Shin-chi comments, "His taste isn't good at all, just like yours." Min-hoi realizes he's feeling jealous and, to tease him more, puts on this. In the next scene, Shin-chi is shopping for shoes for Min-hoi but doesn't like any because they are all heels. He says, "I want flat shoes for her," and buys them. In the next scene, Min-hoi is running late for work. Shin-chi packs food for her and brings the shoes he bought for her and says, "My friend gave these to me." She replies, "Does your friend give you ladies' shoes?" He says, "There's no need to say so much. You're lucky I'm giving these to you." However, she refuses to take the shoes, so Shin-chi makes her wear them and says, "These are better than high heels." They look at each other closely, and Min-hoi runs away. Kwon asks Shin-chi, "Are you feeling shy?" He replies, "No, it just feels like the temperature here is high today." Kwon says, "You don't need to be jealous of Joe because mom isn't interested in him at all." Shin-chi replies, "I'm not jealous." In the next scene, Min-hoi comes to pick Kwon up from school. Kwon asks, "Why have you come to pick me up?" She says, "Why can't I come? I'm feeling jealous now." He says, "Big people are always jealous." She asks, "Who else is jealous?" He tells her Shin-chi was jealous of Dr. Joe. As they're about to leave, a child's mother stops them and says, "Hear us an event where all parents and children will be present. And also, you can bring the dish you are an expert in." At night, she is watching a cupcake recipe when Kwon comes to her and asks, "All the kids' moms and dads will be there. I want you to ask Shin-chi to come with us too." Min-hoi agrees. When Shin-chi comes home, she starts talking to him and asks him to come. He replies, "I have a business meeting tomorrow." She asks, "When will you be back?" He says, "It will take 2 to 3 days." In the next scene, Min-hoi is trying to make cupcakes, but nothing turns out right. Kwon takes Min-hoi's pictures and sends them to Shin-chi, telling him everything about the upcoming school event and how mom is trying to bake something. Cupcakes Min-hoi bakes do not rise. Dr. Jo, who is returning home, notices smoke coming out of Min-hoi's house and rings the bell. Min-hoi comes out and says, "Nothing happened. There's no need to call anyone. I was just baking cupcakes. Come, I'll show you." Dr. Jo looks at the burnt cupcakes and says, "I'll make cupcakes for you." He follows the recipe and starts baking. Meanwhile, Kwon, who has gone shopping with Shin-chi's assistant, gets a call from Shin-chi. He tells Shin-chi, "Mom couldn't make the cupcakes, so we came out to buy something." Meanwhile, Dr. Jo finishes making the cupcakes, and Min-hoi thanks him. In the next scene, Min-hoi is at Kwon's kindergarten, but no one is taking her cakes, which makes Kwon very sad. Just then, Shin-chi enters and says, "Whoever wants to bake a cake from me can come, and we'll all do it together for you." Min-hoi keeps looking at him as he starts baking cakes. After baking, Shin-chi comes to Min-hoi and says, "I'll eat the cupcakes you made," and starts eating them. Then he says, "Why don't we bake a cake for ourselves too?" They start baking a cake together. Dr. Jo is shown coming with a cake for Min-hoi, but leaves after seeing her with Shin-chi. The three of them bake a happy family cake and enjoy themselves. A flashback from 5 years ago is shown where Min-hoi is sitting with Shin-chi, watching a couple. She says, "I don't like it when people hide rings in cakes." Shin-chi had a similar cake made. He quickly takes the cake and leaves. After waiting for a long time, Min-hoi starts looking for him. She calls him, asking, "Where are you?" He says, "I have a surprise for you." He was bringing a bouquet for her when she hears the sound of an accident. She thinks Shin-chi has had an accident, but he comes in front of her unharmed. She starts crying and says, "What if something had happened to you?" He replies, "I'm not going to die so soon," and then gives her the flowers. Min-hoi and Shin-chi are sitting beside Kwon, who is asleep. Min-hoi says, "He's very tired today because he's been telling everyone that you're his dad." Then both of them feel hungry and go to eat noodles. Shin-chi is eating very quickly, and Min-hoi says, "I didn't think you liked noodles so much." He replies, "When someone has been working all day, they eat like this." She asks, "What do you mean? Have you been hungry all day?" Shin-chi says, "I was on a business trip, took the first flight back and didn't want to be late, so I didn't eat anything." Hearing this, Min-hoi thanks him. Shin-chi says, "He's my son too, so there's no need for you to thank me." In the next scene, Dr. Jo sees Min-hoi at the hospital with Shin-chi. He approaches her. She starts discussing her project with him and says, "I need a heart patient." Shin-chi doesn't like Min-hoi talking to Dr. Jo. When Dr. Jo comes close to Min-hoi while talking, Shin-chi stands between them. Next, Min-hoi is copying some pages when Shin-chi arrives. The light suddenly goes out, and they get very close. They were about to kiss when the guard arrives and shines a light on them, making both of them feel embarrassed. Min-hoi says, "Let's go home." Meanwhile, Shin-chi's assistant comes to Kwon, who isn't taking his medicine. To make him take it, the assistant starts playing a game with him and drawing a smiley face. Min-hoi and Shin-chi also arrive there. Shin-chi tells his assistant to leave. Min-hoi then gives him the medicine. When Min-hoi is working, Shin-chi gives her a report and says, "The information you need is in this." Min-hoi feels happy and asks him, "Where did you get this from?" Seeing Shin-chi's face, she asks, "Are these your reports?" He replies, "Yes, they're my reports, but you must not tell anyone that the CEO of Blue Company has such a severe heart disease." As he leaves, Min-hoi thanks him. In the next scene, Shin-chi's assistant tells him, "You need to get a full checkup. You haven't done one in a long time." Min-hoi arrives and also says, "You should get a checkup and stay in this house. Look how big it is." Shin-chi replies, "I'll stay at your house. If you don't want that, you and Kwon can come to my house." She says, "How will Kwon agree?" The assistant says, "I'll convince him." In the next scene, Shin-chi goes with Min-hoi for his checkup. He doesn't feel like lying on the machine, so Min-hoi asks, "How do you feel?" He replies, "It feels like complete darkness and I can't escape from here." This reminds him of Kwon, and Min-hoi says he must feel the same way. As he lies down, Min-hoi holds his hand and says, "I also hold Kwon's hand during his checkup so he can take some of my energy." After laying him down, she leaves the room. Elsewhere, Dr. Jo thinks Kwon needs a checkup. Min-hoi tells him she brought Shin-chi for his checkup. The three of them talk in the room, and Dr. Jo says, "I'll give you the keys to another room so you can rest there." Shin-chi replies, "That's against your rules. I won't rest in another room. There's enough space here." Min-hoi also says, "I'll stay here." Dr. Jo isn't leaving, so Shin-chi says, "I have a headache and I need silence." Dr. Jo leaves, and Min-hoi starts to follow him, making Shin-chi angry. Min-hoi goes to get chocolate for Shin-chi. When she returns with the chocolate and doesn't see him there, she starts working. Shin-chi returns and sees that Min-hoi has fallen asleep. He carefully adjusts her position. Min-hoi wakes up but pretends to be asleep upon seeing Shin-chi. He realizes she's pretending and sits in front of her, eating the chocolate she brought. He keeps eating it so that she will notice when she opens her eyes. Min-hoi eventually sits up, and Shin-chi says, Kwan is right. You can't even pretend to sleep properly. She replies, you two share a blood relation. They start talking about Sunyeon, who was Shinchi's real girlfriend but dead. She says, everything she said about you is true, and I never thought I'd talk to you about her like this. A flashback shows both of them at a shop where Minhoi likes a bracelet. However, it could only be won through a lucky draw. Minhoi doesn't win, and she feels sad. After she leaves, Shinchi goes back to the shop and buys the bracelet. In the next scene, Shinchi is waiting for Minhoi in a restaurant. Minhoi arrives with Kwan. Shinchi gives her a gift. Seeing it, she asks him, how did you know I used this shade of lipstick? Then she remembers her lipstick was on his shirt, so he knew the shade from there, and Shinchi just happened to buy that lipstick. After dinner, Minhoi goes outside and receives a call. Kwan walks away from her. Shinchi asks about Kwan. They both start looking for Kwan. Then they think about calling the police. Just then, Minhoi receives a call. Minhoi comes to Kwan and asks, where did you go leaving me? He says, because Dad got you a gift. I also wanted to get you a gift, but after buying the gift, I didn't have any money. Then he starts crying. At home, Shinchi tells Minhoi, you raised Kwan very well and you even made him remember your number. She says, Kwan is very happy because of you. I want us to take care of him together. Then she holds Shinchi's hand and he agrees. The next day, Minhoi goes to Shinchi's office to give him a gift, but he is not there. She leaves the gift. She sees some documents and reads them. They are Kwan's custody papers. Seeing this, she is worried. On the other hand, Shinchi is coming with his assistant. He says, President sent me papers. I kept them on your table. Shinchi gets angry, saying, why did you bring these papers? I didn't tell you to do that. He is about to enter the room when Minhoi arrives. Seeing him, she shouts, get lost! When he comes home, she has already packed his belongings. He says, listen to me. She says, yes, tell me. But he cannot speak. She says, insult me as much as you want. Take whatever you want from me, but never talk about taking Kwan away from me. He says, I came to him for his attention, not to take him from you, but she throws him out without listening. Kwan asks Minhoi, will Shinchi never come? She says, he went on a business trip. At home, Shinchi cannot sleep. In the next scene, Shinchi comes to meet Minhoi. Mu arrives and asks, whom do you want to meet? He says, no one. Mu tells Dr. Joe, Minhoi has a headache. Can you check her? Shinchi asks Mu what happened to her. She says, you both live in the same house and you don't know. He goes to her apartment using the lift, but Dr. Joe is already in the lift. Both enter the lift and get stuck at the door while exiting. They knock on the door. Minhoi opens the door and takes Dr. Joe inside, then closes the door. Dr. Joe asks her, did you have a fight with Shinchi? She tells him everything. Kwan is outside with the assistant. He asks, is Shinchi really on a business trip? The assistant says yes and gives Kwan his number, saying, call me whenever you need to. Dr. Zhao tells Minhoi, marry me. As soon as you get Kwan's custody, you can divorce me. She says, I consider you my friend, and I would never do such a thing with you. He says, you took my joke seriously. Minhoi smiles. In the next scene, Shinchi is talking to Kwan on call. Just then, Minhoi arrives. He asks, Dad, when will you come back? He says, I'll be back soon and take you out, making Kwan happy. Later, he tells Minhoi this too. Minhoi has to go to a business meeting. When Shinchi finds out, he decides to follow her. He makes special arrangements for her, including a special room that Kwan likes very much. But Minhoi realizes Shinchi is behind it and leaves with Kwan. Shinchi arrives at the same room. The hotel staff says, sorry, we couldn't stop them. He's going upstairs when he hears Minhoi's voice. He goes towards her when a girl comes from behind, hugs him and kisses him. Minhoi and Kwan don't like it. He goes to Kwan, but Minhoi takes him away. Shinchi stops her, saying, listen to me. The girl starts to show affection to Kwan. He asks, who are you? Why did you kiss my dad? My mom never kissed Dad. Why did you? She smiles and asks Shinchi, tell me, who am I? He says, this is my elder sister, Shindi. Hearing this, Minhoi relaxes. They sit and talk. Shindi doesn't know Chinese, especially idioms. She speaks incorrectly, which Kwan corrects, making Shindi like Kwan very much. After that, she invites them to dinner. They refuse, but she insists, and Minhoi agrees. At dinner, Minhoi talks about Shinchi's childhood. Then she tells Kwan, you can call me Aunt. When he calls Shindi Aunt, Shindi finds him even cuter. When Shinchi goes to the washroom, Shindi asks Minhoi, how difficult must it be for you to handle Kwan alone? Minhoi says, Shinchi asked the same question. Then Shindi says an incorrect idiom. If the person in front of you is weak, the enemy will win. Hearing this, Minhoi gets angry. She takes Kwan from Shinchi and leaves. After that, Shinchi asks Shindi, what you said her? She tells him everything, including the idiom. He says, your idiom was incorrect, so she is misunderstood. I'm her enemy. She says, you two should get married because I saw you like her. He says, I don't like her. She says, you can't lie to me. Meanwhile, Kwan goes to his room and asks Minhoi, did you have a fight with Dad? She says no. He says, why don't adults admit their mistakes? Then Minhoi asks, If someone asks you if you want to go to your dad's or mine, what will you say? He says, of course yours, Mom. In the next scene, Shinchi comes to Kwan and asks, where is your mom? He says, washroom. He adds, why don't adults keep their promises? You told me we'd go camping. Minhoi arrives and tells Kwan, how many times have I told you not to open the door for everyone? He says, it's not just anyone, but Dad. She becomes quiet. She sends Kwan to his room and asks Shinchi, why are you here? He shows her some papers and says, I don't need Kwan. His custody will remain with you. Minhoi is happy. Some points are written on the papers stating that Shinchi can see Kwan once a week. Kwan hears their conversation and tells Shinchi, take me out soon. Next, we see Minhoi taking Kwan out, but not for camping. Kwan is angry and doesn't want to go. Then Chow Mu calls, and Kwan talks to her. She says, I arranged a surprise for you. Then her surprise arrives, a car with camping equipment. Kwan is very happy and quickly gets in. They reach the seaside and start unpacking. Minhoi calls Chow Mu, who doesn't know about some things, making Minhoi realize who's behind it. We see Shinchi arrive for a business meeting there. He sees Kwan and Minhoi and approaches them. Minhoi says, you're here for a business meeting, do your work. But he says, I finished everything. The deal is done. He signals the man to leave. Shinchi says, let me spend some time with Kwan, but she doesn't agree. Kwan says, please Mom, agree. She agrees. Shinchi and Kwan put up the tent. Seeing them so close, she leaves. Kwan brings a chair for Minhoi to sit on. As she sits, the chair breaks and she falls, with Shinchi on top of her. She pushes him away and gets up. Minhoi enjoys seeing Kwan playing with Shinchi. She even makes a video of them. At night, they're sitting together. Kwan, who was sleeping in the tent, wakes up and watches them. Minhoi says, you came here yourself, right? You knew we were coming. He says, no, I came for business. Can I see your phone? She says, okay, I believe you, but you sent the car through Chow Mu, right? He says, yes, I did. She says, you met Kwan twice this week. You won't meet him next week. He says, no, I came for business. That doesn't. In the next scene, Shinchi is bringing Kwan because he was asleep. Chow Mu calls Minhoi. She's in a bad mood and at the same hotel. She tells Shinchi, I'll meet Chow Mu for a bit. He says, I'll take Kwan to my room while you're busy. She says, okay. In the next scene, Minhoi comes to get Kwan back. Kwan is playing with Shinchi. He doesn't want to go home. She says, I'm sleepy and you should sleep too because I have a presentation tomorrow. He doesn't agree. Shinchi says, prepare your lecture here. I'll play with Kwan and then he'll go with you. She agrees. Minhoi falls asleep while working. Shinchi looks at her lovingly, touches her, and lays her down on the bed. Minhoi wakes up. Seeing Shinchi so close, he's about to kiss her when Kwan changes sides, making them both move away. Minhoi says, I should take Kwan to my room. I don't know how I fell asleep here. Shinchi says, stay here. I'll go to the other room, and leaves. Next, we see the event scene where all three are together. Shinchi takes Kwan, saying, prepare your presentation well, I'll handle him. Then she lets him go. In the next scene, the organizer tells her, your speech is canceled. She insists, and he says, okay, we'll give you a last chance. The event starts. Minhoi was supposed to give the first speech, but she isn't called. Shinchi messages her, why weren't you called? She says, it's because of Chang. She adds, my turn will come later. He says, I'll help you. But she replies, no, I'll handle it myself. The event comes to end, but Minhoi isn't called. She stands up and says, I need to talk about my project. She explains her project well. On the other side, Shindi sits with Kwan. After the speeches, she goes to get Kwan but doesn't find him. She finds a gift Shinchi left. She messages him thanking him. He says, how did you know I gave it to you? She says, only someone with such bad taste would give such a gift. She asks about Kwan and he says, he's with Shindi. Later, at a party, Minhoi wears the dress Shinchi gave her. Chang's assistant tries to talk to Kwan, but he says, I don't know you, and she tries to force a conversation. Kwan calls for his mom. Minhoi arrives and asks, who are you? Why are you bothering my son? People say, he's your son. He's quite grown up. The assistant takes advantage of the situation, saying, he's her son. She raised him alone. She doesn't even know who his father is. Shinchi arrives, calls Kwan and says, who said he doesn't have a father? I am his father. He apologizes for disturbing the party. Then he takes Kwan and Minhoi away. Outside, Kwan says, put me down. He runs, and they both chase him, holding hands. In the room, Minhoi drinks. Shinchi stops her. She asks, do you like me? Then she says, forget it, puts her hand on her eyes and says, first, you come to me for Kwan. Then you say you don't want Kwan. First you say don't show your face to me, then you keep appearing in front of me. Shinchi sits down and says, I'll answer your questions. But before he can, Minhoi vomits. The next morning, Minhoi wakes up and sees her changed dress. Remembering she asked Shinchi if he liked her, she says, I'll get the answer, goes outside, and calls out him but gets no response. She's about to leave when Shinchi, playing a role-playing game with two characters, one Minhoi, one Shinchi. She gets emotional by hearing this. Shinchi stands beside her and apologizes. I wasted 5 years like that. She says, no, it wasn't wasted. Maybe you didn't love me as much as you do now after 5 years. He gives her the bracelet from 5 years ago. She says, you still have this? Then a boy named Chen arrives and asks Minhoi, how could you do this to me? You killed my sister and took Shinchi. Minhoi is shocked and says, Su Nian was your sister. A flashback shows Min Hoi trying to tell Shinchi something, but he gets a call. Someone tells him, the girl is with you isn't Su Nian. He starts argues with her saying, how can you lie to me? She says, I didn't lie. You had a heart problem, so I didn't tell you. I just wanted you to go abroad for surgery. Shinchi gets upset. Min Hoi tries to help, but he says, don't show your face to me again. She tries to convince him, but he doesn't listen. She leaves and Shinchi faints. In the present, Chen says, you killed my sister. A flashback shows where Min Hoi pushing Su Nian from. Shinchi asks Min Hoi, did you kill Su Nian? She asks, don't you believe me? He says, it's not about belief. I'm just asking. She says, I know you didn't believe me then, and you don't now, so why ask? Qiaomu arrives. Min Hoi throws both of them out. Shinchi and Chen are shown. Shinchi tells him, Su Nian and me were childhood sweethearts. The day she was coming to meet me for the first time after growing up, she met with an accident. In her place, Min Hoi came to meet me. Chen accuses Min Hoi. He says, Min Hoi can't do that. Just then, Min Hoi arrives and says, I will prove me innocent. I'll take you to where Su Nian died. They go to the place. They take separate rooms. Chen goes to Shinchi's room and talks to him. Min Hoi comes to the balcony. Chen says, if it's revealed Min Hoi killed Su Nian, what will you do? Shinchi says, do you think I'll leave the person who killed Su Nian? Min Hoi goes inside after hearing that. Shinchi says, I believe Min Hoi didn't do it. In the next scene, they go to a man who was on the bus during the accident. He recognizes Min Hoi. He tells them about Su Nian, saying, the bus was about to fall into a ditch. Some people opened the door and left. I was helping these two girls, but Su Nian moves back. Min Hoi tried to save Su Nian, but I pulled her away, otherwise she would have died too. Chen thinks why Su Nian went back she shouldn't have. In the next scene, Min Hoi apologizes to Chen. I couldn't save your sister. He apologizes. I wrongly accused you. Then he asks, why my sister went back. She points to a picture in his hand, implying she went back to get this picture. Min Hoi says, consider me your sister. He's happy. Shinchi stands behind them, smiling. In the next scene, Shinchi comes to Min Hoi, but she avoids him. He says, now that the truth is out, why are you avoiding me? She says, you believed me. He says, I believe you more now, but she leaves. In the next scene, Shinchi finds Min Hoi and proposes. He says, I want to be with you and Quan, but she says, our relationship ended 5 years ago. He says, I didn't trust you then, but I do now. She says, I thought we could be together, but not anymore. Our relationship is because of Quan. In the next scene, Shinchi goes to Quan. Quan doesn't know anything, so Min Hoi doesn't stop him. He says, a new animation movie have released. Will you come with me? Quan says yes. He gestures to Quan to ask Min Hoi. She says, okay, let's go. As they leave, he asks Min Hoi to get in the car, but she says, I said Quan should go. I didn't say I'd go with you. He asks, where are you going? She says, when Quan is with you, I'm going on a date. In the next scene, Shinchi sends many flowers to Min Hoi's office, but she's allergic to them. She goes outside and asks. Employees tells her, the sender said you'll understand. She distributes the flowers in the office. Then he sends her a cup, saying, when you drink water from this cup, it will taste sweet, but she doesn't like it either. Shinchi waits for her message. In the next scene, Min Hoi takes Quan to learn swimming. Shinchi arrives. Chen says, I called Quan, but I'm busy, so teach him to swim. Shinchi takes off his clothes to swim, and Min Hoi turns her face away. Shinchi teaches Quan to swim. Quan says, Mom, you're looking at other boys, not me. Shinchi thinks, I'll impress him with my swimming. He swims quickly. During the last round, Shinchi has chest pain in the water. Min Hoi worries. He comes out of the water, but the pain persists. Min Hoi rushes to him and says, you're crazy. You know you're a heart patient and you do this? He says, I'm fine. Min Hoi isn't convinced, so Shinchi lets her listen to his heartbeat. At home, Min Hoi tells him, why are you here? Go home. He takes Quan to his room and says, I'm tired. I'll rest. Meanwhile, Min Hoi can't open her dress zipper, so she calls Quan. He can't open it either. Shinchi hears them, opens her zipper, turns Quan's face away, saying, you shouldn't see your mom like this, and leaves. In the next scene, Shinchi is at Min Hoi's house. When she arrives, she asks, what are you doing here? He says, I moved in. Min Hoi grabs a lamp to hit him. She wakes Quan and asks, will you let anyone into the house? He says, he's dad, no one else. He says things that make them smile. She tries to throw Shinchi out. Shinchi tells Quan to act. Quan cries, I want to stay with dad. Please don't throw him out. She says, if you act again, shed some tears. Shinchi says, I can't go home. There's flooding. Min Hoi doesn't believe him, so he asks his assistant. The assistant confirms the flooding. She says, okay, show me on video call. Shinchi stops him because his lie will be revealed, but the assistant is prepared and shows a fake flood. Min Hoi believes him. She asks Shinchi, are you leaving or not? He says no. She says, okay, then I'll leave. They think about where Min Hoi will go. Quan mentions Dr. Zhou's house. Shinchi goes there and knocks. Seeing Dr. Joe in a nightdress, he says, I need to talk to you. Dr. Joe says, I'll listen tomorrow. Shinchi says, it's a secret about Min Hoi. Dr. Joe says, I don't want to hear any secrets. I'll hear it from Min Hoi. The next day, Min Hoi goes to the office. Shinchi arrives and asks, where you slept. She doesn't answer and says, if you don't leave my house, I'll sleep there again. Mu arrives and gives Min Hoi her phone, saying, you left it at my house. Shinchi realizes she was at Mu's house. He apologizes and leaves. Outside, he talks to the employees. Mu and Min Hoi arrive and talk about a blind date. Shinchi says, I know you're both lying, and leaves. Min Hoi says, I'll go on a blind date and see. The next day, Min Hoi gets ready for her blind date, but Kwan makes a wall of toys. She asks, what's this? He says, Mom, you don't look good at all. Shinchi calls and says, I have work, so I can't take Kwan. She tells Kwan, Shinchi won't come, so I'll leave you with Dr. Joe. He refuses and pretends to have a stomachache. She says, okay, I'll take you to the hospital. You'll be fine. Hearing this, Kwan sits up. She says, you're doing this so I don't go on a blind date. He says, I'm not against your blind date, nor am I supporting it. She says, then come with me. If you don't like the guy, I won't contact him again. Kwan agrees. They wait for the guy at the restaurant. Kwan looks for his dad. Shinchi signals him. The guy arrives. Kwan ignores him. Shinchi sees Min Hoi smiling at something the guy said, and he gets angry. Shinchi signals Kwan to start Plan C. Kwan will throw his toy at the guy. The guy will get upset and leave, but that doesn't happen. Shinchi leaves, signaling Kwan, I'll call you. Then Min Hoi gets a call. The investor is Shinchi, but she catches Shinchi there and asks, why are you here? He quickly goes to Kwan and picks him up. He tells the guy, I'm Kwan's father. The guy apologizes and leaves. Then they argue. Shinchi says, how can you go on a blind date with someone? She says, it's my problem. He says, when I'm asking for a chance, why are you giving chances to others? She says, today's your day with Kwan, enjoy it, and leaves. In the next scene, Shinchi is with Kwan. Min Hoi comes to take Kwan. He says, you're late. Did you go on another blind date? She lies, saying, I had 8 to 9 blind dates. I even thought of marrying one. She takes Kwan. Shinchi acts like he's having chest pain. Min Hoi comes to him. Kwan says, give dad CPR. She says, I don't know how. He says, you should. She gives Shinchi CPR by pinching his nose. He sits up. She says, that's the best CPR. She takes Kwan. Shinchi comes to Kwan again. Kwan doesn't let him in. He asks, whose side are you on? Kwan says, yours, but Mom said if I let you in, she'll throw us both out. He gives Kwan the chocolate Min Hoi gave him and closes the door. He thinks, if she didn't like me, she wouldn't give me heart-shaped chocolate. In the next scene, Min Hoi is on a blind date, but the guy is strange, so she leaves. Chang arrives and asks, are you on a blind date? She doesn't answer and leaves sadly. He starts misbehaving with her, so Shinchi comes and teaches him a lesson. Min Hoi leaves. Shinchi follows her and tries to talk, but she ignores him. Shinchi says, you are going on blind dates, so you won't fall in love with me again. She says, I promise if you stay away, I won't go on blind dates. He says, you're doing this to make me stay away. She says, yes, and leaves. Shinchi grabs her arm. She tries to pull away, and Shinchi feels pain in his hand because he hit Chang with that hand. She thinks he's acting. He says, I can't drive. Please take me with you. But she refuses and leaves. Then smiling, she takes him home. Shinchi gives her a gift for Kwan. As she leaves, he says, look at my hand. It needs medicine. She asks the assistant to apply it, but he leaves on a work excuse. Min Hoi applies the medicine. He calls her name, and she asks, yes? He says, I just felt like saying your name. She leaves, saying, it would be better for you to give up on me. He acts like his heart hurts. Min Hoi thinks something's wrong, but nothing is wrong. She leaves. He puts his hand on his chest because he's in real pain but doesn't tell Min Hoi. In the next scene, Dr. Joe checks Shinchi. Min Hoi and Kwan arrive. Kwan is upset seeing him like that. Dr. Joe says, don't worry, he's fine. Shinchi sits up. Min Hoi says, why didn't you tell me? You act sick when you're not, and don't say anything when you are. He says, I didn't want to worry you, and I can handle myself. She says, you don't need to handle yourself alone. He says, what did you say? She leaves and he's happy. When Shinchi wakes up, he sees Min Hoi and Kwan sitting beside him. He asks, were you here? Min Hoi says, yes, we'll stay with you. Kwan draws a heart on Shinchi's hand, saying, you have one sick heart so you can live with another heart. He smiles. A nurse asks about his family. Min Hoi says, we're his family. He's happy. The nurse gives Shinchi medicine. He says, if you're with me when I'm sick, I want to be sick forever. Min Hoi says, if you're not better in a week, Kwan and I will leave. Shinchi quickly takes the medicine. Shindi arrives. Min Hoi takes Kwan home. Kwan says, we were going to stay. She says, Shindi came, so why stay? Kwan says, let's get heart-shaped sandwiches for Dad. She asks, why? He says, when I was sick, you gave me heart-shaped sandwiches. They gave me energy, so we should give them to Dad too. In the next scene, Shinchi asks Shindi to take him home. She says, okay. She tells Kwon and Min Hoi he can be taken care of properly here. She asks Min Hoi, please take care of him. Min Hoi says, I also have work and can't take full care of him. She sadly sits beside Shin-chi. Min Hoi says, okay. Shin-di happily leaves with the assistant. She gives Shin-chi the sandwich, saying, Kwon asked me to make it. He's happy, but makes a sour face after taking a bite. He kisses her hand, saying, now it's sweeter. Min Hoi says, you'll get diabetes, and leaves. At night, she gives him medicine. He asks, did you clean the living room for Kwon? She says, no, I'm taking him home. He says, what is I'll die at night? I'm a heart patient. Kwon hugs Shin-chi and says, Mom, how can you leave us? We're heart patients. Min Hoi says, okay, agreeing that no one is leaving. He tells Kwon, sleep with me. Min Hoi sleeps with him on a chair. He says, how can you sleep here? She says, in case something happens to you at night, I should be here. He says, can I do anything with you? She says, no, scolding him. Shin-chi pretends to have chest pain. She checks him and he pulls her close, saying, don't trust others. Listen to my heartbeat. She says, you can sleep alone, and leaves. The next morning, she tries to wake him, but he doesn't wake up. She listens to his heartbeat. He pulls her close again. He says, what do you think? I died? I won't die because I promised Kwon I'd always be with him, with you. Later, Shin-chi is waiting for Min Hoi at home. Kwon says, I'm here, so Mom come to get me. Just then, Min Hoi arrives. Shin-chi acts again. When Kwon leaves, she says, sit up, I know you're fine. Then he brings her some perfumes and says, apply any of these perfumes so that they will think you are married. Hearing this, Min Hoi, annoyed, says, when was the last time you got your brain treated? It seems like it has been quite a while. Saying this, she goes to look for Kwon. The lights go off, then beautiful lights turn on. He says, this is your gift for taking care of me. She talks about the project. He says, I'm here. I'll do something for your project. She says, for the first time someone fought for me. I always solve problems myself. He says, I didn't leave you. I was just absent for 5 years. Later, Min Hoi and Shin-chi are going to the hospital. She falls asleep in the car. Shin-chi holds her head as she wakes up and moves to the side. Dr. Zhao calls and asks her to come. He says, don't go. She doesn't listen, so he sits sideways. She's returning after talking to Zhao when she sees Chang. He says, I bought your company. Come with me if you want to know more. Min Hoi says, okay, and goes with him. Shin-chi is waiting outside the hospital. Min Hoi gets in the car with Chang. Shin-chi suspects something wrong and follows them. Chang talks about the company. Min Hoi records his words to blackmail him, but he discovers it and takes her phone. Then he starts misbehaving with her, so she slaps him. A flashback occurs. Chang had harassed her before. Shin-chi arrives and takes her home. Min Hoi is very scared, so Shin-chi consoles her, saying, nothing will happen. Then she falls asleep. When she wakes up, she is holding Shin-chi's hand. He is sitting on the floor. She asks him to sit up. He says, I saw you crying 5 years ago at the breakup, and I saw you crying today. She says, you also did wrong. He says, yes, I admit it, but why did Chang do this to you? She tells him about 5 years ago. I was fired from my previous job. I went there after college. The director was Chang. He was initially nice to me. I thought it was because of my work, but his intention was wrong. One day he tried to harass me, and when I reported him, nobody believed me. His assistant knew, but she gave a false statement. He asks, if that was the case, why were you sitting on his lap at the party? She says, his father is a good doctor, and Kwon needed urgent treatment, so he asked me to do it. She tells Shin-chi, don't do anything now because Chang is a very bad person. He says, leave everything on me. Then, Shin-chi goes to Chang. Min Hoi had beaten him so badly that he was admitted to the hospital. Chang says to Shin-chi, does Min Hoi like you? Did you impress her with your money? Shin-chi says, I made this mistake 5 years ago, and I'm paying the price. He adds, you tried to harass her before. I have proof. I will give it to the police and the media, and I will never leave Min Hoi. Min Hoi hears all this from outside. When Shin-chi goes home, Min Hoi is standing near the tree. He asks, are you still awake? She says, I heard everything you said. He says, now you believe that I will never leave you. Min Hoi gives him a bracelet, saying, can you put this on me? Shin-chi happily puts the bracelet on her. Then Shin-chi kisses Min Hoi, and their romance begins. They spend a night together. The next day, Min Hoi wakes up and tries to get up, but Shin-chi pulls her back. They see Kwon standing there. He sits between them and says, you two are sleeping together. Shouldn't I sleep with you too? Shin-chi takes him to sleep with them, but Min Hoi starts pulling him to send him to kindergarten. In the next scene, Shin-chi is making breakfast. Min Hoi comes to him. He says, hasn't your face glowed more since we've been together? He asks, will you stay here now? Won't you go back? She says, no, I will take Kwon back to my home. He says, look, I'm a heart patient. You won't go. She says, you've become tired now. Then Kwon comes and says, Dad, let me eat too. Next, Min Hoi is shown counting her money. Shin-chi comes and tries to be affectionate, but she pushes him away, saying, I don't have that much money. Whose help should I take? He becomes serious. She looks at him and says, how can I forget you? You are my helper. He says, I'm going to invest so much in your company. money, but she says, "You can't invest that much. I have collected some, I want to do it myself." He says, "I'm investing, so it's from your side." She agrees, but says, "Let's keep our relationship a secret." Shin-chi agrees in front of her, but says, "You don't let the world know that you are my girlfriend." She says, "I don't tell outside. At home, I am yours." Hearing this, Shin-chi is happy. When he tries to kiss Min-hoi, he slips to the side, then again and again. He says, "Our kiss isn't complete yet," and they kiss again and their romance starts. When they get to bed, Kwon is already asleep. Shin-chi tries to take him to his room, but Kwon wakes up and says, "You both sleep with me." Shin-chi tells him, "You've grown up now, so you should sleep in your room," and leaves him in his room. Then he comes to his room and sees that Min-hoi is asleep. He kisses her and falls asleep. She wakes up and sees that Shin-chi is asleep. She asks him something. He comes over to her side and gets on top of her, and their romance begins again. In the next scene, Kwon is having dinner with Shin-chi and Min-hoi. After tying Min-hoi's eyes, he gives her a gift he made himself. Seeing it, she becomes emotional and asks him, "Did you bring us out for this?" He says, "Yes." "Did you like it?" "You've been worried for some days. Your parents said to solve your problems yourself, so I made this for you." She says, "I liked your gift very much." Shin-chi says, "Where's my gift?" After tying her eyes, he gives her a gift, a watch like his. Shin-chi is happy and puts it on. In the next scene, Min-hoi and Shin-chi are eating. Kwon is with his assistant. He says to her, "Your so handsome boyfriend is sitting in front of you, and you're looking at the food." She starts looking at her mobile. He says, "What does that mean? Are you buying a new house? Selling this one?" She says, "Yes, I need to invest money in the project, so I am selling it." He says, "Tell me how much money you need. Why sell the house?" Then he says, "After selling the house, you will come and stay with me," and he is happy about it. Then the assistant calls. He tells Min-hoi, "Kwon will take some time to come. Let's go and you give me a reward." The next day, a girl comes to see the house. After she leaves, Shin-chi tells Min-hoi to pack, saying, "You are coming to my house?" She asks, "Who said that?" He says, "My house is so big and I want you to be with me." She says, "Who better than you?" He is so happy that he starts saying, "Pack this, and whatever you don't pack, we will buy new things at my house." But she isn't packing. Shin-chi starts packing himself. While packing, Min-hoi gets sad because she thought this house would always be hers and Kwon's, but now she's selling it. Shin-chi says, "Now you're coming to my house and we are a family." She says, "When I get money again, I will buy a house." In the next scene, Zhao comes to talk to Min-hoi. Shin-chi comes there wearing a helmet and says, "We are officially dating, so stay away from Min-hoi." Min-hoi smiles and leaves. He tells him, "She is selling the house, so Min-hoi won't be your neighbor." Zhao says, "I'm not interested in your Min-hoi anymore," and he is happy. In the next scene, Zhao brings a man to sell Min-hoi's house. The man likes the house very much. She takes 3 days to shift her. In the next scene, Min-hoi has shifted all her belongings to Shin-chi's house. She sits on the sofa. Shin-chi comes close. She says, "I'm hungry." He says, "Let's go out to eat," and then he tries to kiss her, but Min-hoi gets a call. She puts him aside and picks it up. It's the blind date guy who is investing in her project. He invites her out. Shin-chi doesn't want Min-hoi to go, but she kisses him and leaves. Shin-chi follows Min-hoi. She sees him and takes him to the blind date guy and introduces him. "This is my boyfriend." They say hello. Later, they both smile. Shin-chi says, "He's going to invest in your company, and he knows about our relationship. Now he will spread it in whole company." She says, "I'll tell everyone about our relationship beforehand." Shin-chi can't believe it's Min-hoi, and he kisses her in front of everyone at the mall. When Min-hoi and Shin-chi arrive home, Shin-chi starts kissing her and their romance starts. Suddenly, Shin-chi's watch starts beeping because of his high heart rate. Min-hoi is worried. He says, "I'm too excited. That's why it happened. We should do what we were doing," and they start kissing again. In the next scene, the company in which Min-hoi works was going to be sold. Change buys that company. Everyone gets shocked seeing this. In the next scene, Min-hoi is shown sitting sadly. Shin-chi comes to her. She tells him, "I've decided to leave this job. BSEZ, I can't work of Chang's company." He says, "Whatever you decide, I'm with you." The next day, Shin-chi and Kwon wear the same clothes and tell Min-hoi, "Best of luck." Kwon shows her a heart shape with his hands. Seeing Kwon, Shin-chi also shows a heart shape. Then Kwon goes to kindergarten. When Min-hoi reaches the company, Shin-chi holds her hand and says, "Don't think your son and I aren't with you. We are with you." Min-hoi happily goes. Shin-chi calls her back and kisses her. When she enters the office, all the employees tell her that Chang has come. Kao-mu asks her, "What did you decide?" She says, "I decided to resign." Then Min-hoi gives Chang her resignation, but he threatens her again, saying, "I will fire all the employees if you leave the job." Then Min-hoi has to take back his resignation. In the next scene, Shin-chi takes her somewhere for a surprise. It's her old house. Arriving there, she says, "Don't open the door. Their family may have moved in. They also have privacy." But Shin-chi opens the door and tells Min-hoi, "I bought this house so you won't be sad." Min-hoi starts looking at her house. He says, "I bought this house for Kwon," and seeing her cry, apologizes, saying, "I didn't know you would feel bad." Min-hoi hugs him and thanks him. He says, "What do I get in return?" She says, "I'll give you what I have to give." He looks at her. She takes him to a place where they can relieve stress by throwing things. They both start throwing things. In the next scene, Shin-chi and Min-hoi are watching a movie. Shin-chi is crying while watching it, so Min-hoi changes the movie. Then Min-hoi starts crying because of the movie, and Shin-chi tries to quiet her, but she doesn't stop. On the other hand, Chang gives his assistant money, saying, "Leave here and don't show your face again." She gets angry, saying, I did so much for you, and tearing up the check, she says, I'll tell everyone the truth, including what you did to Min Hoi. I have all the proof. You have 4 days to think about what you're going to do. In the next scene, Chang's assistant goes home. Someone has checked all her belongings. She says, Chang was here. She starts looking for the secret thing, which is not there. Then Shinchi arrives and takes her to another house where Chang won't come. She says, you're doing this so that I will help you and Min Hoi. He says, it's your problem whether you work with me or not. He gives her a room card and leaves. Meanwhile, Chang is busy destroying the device he got from his assistant's house. He's going somewhere when Min Hoi passes by. He asks her to get into the car, but Min Hoi doesn't listen. She gets out and starts misbehaving with him. Shinchi arrives and warns him, I've told you before to stay away from Min Hoi. Chang leaves. In the next scene, Min Hoi's colleague is working overtime when her another colleague, Deng, arrives and starts misbehaving with her. On the other hand, Min Hoi is eating ice cream with Shinchi. He's getting close to her when she receives a call from the employee. Next, she takes her home and tells him to report Deng. The next day, Min Hoi beats Deng badly in the office. All the employees enjoy watching. The girl arrives with the police and arrests him. In the next scene, Min Hoi is crossing the road when a bike hits her, injuring her leg. She's admitted to the hospital. She asks Shinchi, why are you sad? He says, if I had come sooner, you wouldn't have been hurt. She says, it's not a big deal. I'll be fine, just need some rest. He says, when you're better, I'll take you somewhere. Next, Shinchi takes Min Hoi somewhere. She says, did you hide a girl here? He says, yes, that's right. Then he takes her to Chang's assistant and leaves her alone. She tells her, I have proof of what Chang did to you. Then they both start live streaming, revealing all the details. The police arrive to arrest Chang. After that, Shinchi buys the company and Quan tells his friends, he's my dad, this is his company. Then Shinchi tells everyone, everything I have is Min Hoi and Quan's. Then everyone celebrates. In the next scene, Min Hoi is sitting with Shinchi. He says, I think we should get married, and takes out a ring to propose, but he gets a pain in his heart, and the ring falls. Min Hoi takes Shinchi to the hospital and cries in front of him. He says, nothing happened, I'll be fine. She says, you can still ask me what you wanted to ask, but he doesn't. Min Hoi leaves when his assistant arrives. He says, you'll have to go abroad for a checkup. He says, give me 1 day. Next morning, Min Hoi is sleeping next to Shinchi, but when she wakes up, he's not there. He comes and says, I'm completely fine. She hugs him. He tells her, I'm going out for business. I'll be back when my work is done. Min Hoi understands that he's going for treatment. Then they spend time together that day. Min Hoi arranges a surprise for him. She puts a blindfold on his eyes and says, count to 3, then open your eyes. Saying this, she leaves. He opens his eyes. Min Hoi has started a project. Min Hoi says, I know you're not going on a business trip, but for treatment. But you don't need to lie. I'll wait for you here always. If you love me, look back. He sees Doctor. Zhao opened the door, and Min Hoi comes in. She had done all this to propose to him. Then she puts the ring on Shinchi. Then Min Hoi extends her hand, but he says, I'll put the ring on you when I come back. And then they kiss. After putting Quan to sleep, they talk. Shinchi says, Quan looks like me. She says, no, he looks like me. They start to argue when Quan says, I'm like both of you because I'm your son. After that, all three fall asleep. In the morning, when Min Hoi wakes up, Shinchi is not there because he is going to the airport. She calls him. He says, I'm on my way to the airport. She starts crying, saying, you're going without meeting me. He says, if I met both of you, maybe I wouldn't be able to go. Now they say goodbye to each other. Then we see a scene from half a year later. Cao Mu tells her to go to the 20th floor. When Min Hoi goes to that floor, there is nobody there. She hears Quan's voice guiding her. Now she reaches the top floor, and she hears Shinchi's voice. She sees Shinchi standing there. They both run towards each other and hug. Now their wedding scene is shown. Their son, who is supposed to complete their wedding ceremony, he starts reading some lines but gets stuck. He says, I have never read such lines. Everybody starts shouting Shinchi's name. Then the ring ceremony happens. Quan is happy seeing them both because his parents told him, you're a lucky child who's seeing your parents' wedding. Then they kiss. In the next scene, Shinchi takes her to a tree. He says, I wrote my wish on this. See where it is? All the wishes there are Shinchi's. Now a scene from 2 years later is shown where Min Hoi has come with Quan and another baby. Shinchi says, this is the same tree where I met you for the first time. Quan starts calling the baby sister. She tells him, how many times have I told you it's your brother? He says, I wanted a sister. Shinchi smiles and says, Quan has a point. We can try again for his wish. Min Hoi starts hitting him, and at that moment, their newborn baby starts crying, and the drama ends.